Well, hello everyone. Welcome to another edition of One Plus One, your place for inconvenient truth telling and myth busting. And on the program, it's another of our All Things Africa edition, our journey across the African continent, looking at the history and current affairs of each African country and their respective regions. This episode, we look at the history and current affairs of Diego Garcia and the struggles of the Chagosians in their long quest for basic justice 101. This is our second to last episode of our Africa series, and it's one of the six island nations. And our final chapter of this series, and who better to teach us about this African country or any African country than Abayomi Azikiwe of Pan African Newswire and frequent contributor to Black Agenda Report. Abayomi is a lifelong independent journalist and historian, anti-imperialist, and pan-Africanist leftist who does a lot of solidarity work for Africa and other countries and regions targeted by Western imperialism, as well as a racial and social justice warrior. He's our historical guide and our tour guide. And as always, folks, don't forget to donate to us generously. 1+1 at our PayPal. If you want to donate another way, and if you have any suggestions for other forms of donation, get in touch with me at yurismiler@gmail.com. And don't forget to share us widely, because Facebook sometimes blocks me from sharing, and you sharing is our only way of growing an audience and overcoming corporate and Western state media and far-right media's monopoly. So please do share. And don't forget to help out my colleague Chris Richards of the Eclectic Radical. Join him on Patreon, his Substack, and check out and share his content on YouTube widely, because he's facing unemployment and needs our help. And going forward, I'm going to pitch more and more that people donate and become a monthly sustainer to an organization called Capitalism Can't Be Fixed. Drop Disney Plus, HBO Max, and Spotify and Amazon Prime. John Lennon said that if more people demanded peace instead of another TV set, there would be peace. So help my comrades in Canada out by being a monthly sustainer. It not only helps the organization to be able to do so much more to punch above their weights, but it helps out Jasmine Pierdon, one of my favorite peoples, who deserves to be paid $1,000 a month for the incredible work she does. And before we start the show, I just want to say our deepest condolences and rest in peace to the following. Jared Ball's mother. Our hearts and all of our love goes to Jared and his family for the passing of his mother. Rest in peace and rest in power to Dr. Joanna Fernandez, one of the best friends to Mumia Abu Jamal and the Free Mumia movement. And if one wants to learn about the Young Lords, the Puerto Rican version of the Black Panthers, she is a good place to get a crash course understanding of that noble history and more. Also, rest in peace to Glenn Hansard, a brilliant musician, and even if he wasn't my favorite or even least favorite glass of beer, folks should check out the beautiful film he starred in once. And this I found out, 2 hours ago. But rest in peace to William Orbit and those who love. Oh, 1 second.
You're breaking up.
Oh, sorry about that. Oh, sorry about that, folks. Yes, just want to say, rest in peace to Glenn Hansard, and folks should check out the movie once. And 2 hours ago, I found out about this, but rest in peace to William Orbit. Those who love EDM music and the subgenre of trance and experimental techno will know him, and those of you who love Madonna or have a soft spot for her body of work will know him as the producer of the album Ray of Light music and other work she did with EDM influence. Orbit was her George Martin. So for that, rest in peace. And now on to the topic at hand. Sorry about all that, folks. And now on to the topic at hand. Abayomi. So tell us, what was Diego Garcia like before it became first a French colony, and many of the Chagosians and their present-day descendants speak French Creole, as well as a combination of the two. So, what was Diego Garcia like before it became a French colony? How did it become a French colony, and then how did it become a British colony? And what were the conditions like of the people during both French rule and later Britain's rule over the island?
Well, quite interestingly enough, like the other many of the other island nations in the Indian Ocean. The Europeans claimed that the area was, quote, uninhabited, unquote, and that it was visited possibly by some sailors who were of Arab descent, although they don't name the specific origin of these Arab navigators. In the early 1500s, based upon the world map that had been drafted during that particular time period by and been advanced by the Portuguese, they landed there in the early part of the 16th century. And in doing that, they wanted to set up an outpost for further European exploration. Later, under French dominance, they set up a colonial system. They enslaved the Africans and the others, Asians, South Asians, in a plantation system. Eventually, they began to grow, cultivate, and export coconuts. But it was a huge slave plantation, and that plantation, of course, made tremendous profits for France initially. But then, after the Treaty of Paris, which was signed in 1814, that ostensibly ended the Napoleonic Wars, the area was ceded to the United Kingdom. And after that point, they continued to exploit the land as well as the workers there. This went on for more than a century. During World War One, in the early phase of World War One, there was an effort by the German Navy to penetrate the Chagos Islands and Diego Garcia in particular. That was fought back and defeated successfully by the British Royal Navy and the British Marines. So we're going into the period of World War One, and the exploitation of workers there became extremely intense, and this continued all the way up to World War Two, where it was also utilized as a British military outpost during the period of World War Two between the late 1930s up until the mid 1940s. So the island had a very small population. At its max, it's estimated it was about 1,500 people who lived there. And this was the case up until about 1965, when they reconfigured the British outpost in the Indian Ocean, naming them the British Indian Ocean Territory, the BIOT.
Interesting.
And it was already a military outpost. And during the escalation of the war in Vietnam, the United States wanted to lease Diego Garcia in particular, so they could utilize it as a military base for carrying out aggressive actions against Vietnam and against other geopolitical regions, which the United States had, of course, wanted to seize, dominate, and exploit.
Yes, and
So
while
that is principally the history up until about 1965, where it was a radical shift in the purpose and the usage of the Chagos Islands and Diego Garcia in particular.
yes, and while other colonies, particularly island nations like Jamaica, Trinidad, and Barbados, while they were given independence from Britain, or they were reconstructed into neo colonies, because many of them still have the British monarch as head of state and a Westminster style of parliament and whatnot. Diego Garcia remains a British overseas territories like the Falklands, Malvinas, like Gibraltar, and some other Caribbean places, much like what the U.S. has with Puerto Rico, America Samoa, Guam, Marshall Islands, British Virgin Islands, and so forth. Now, during the first
Yes.
And then continuing on with what you were saying. Now, during the first Harold Wilson administration, the Labour Party of Britain engaged in the ruling government of Harold Wilson, the Labour Party of Britain, engaged in a brutal depopulation campaign. They forcibly expelled the entire inhabitants, the entire island of Diego Garcia to make room for a U.S. military base. Some of the communities found themselves in the U.K., but most of them were just dumped into the urban slums in densely populated urban slums ghettos in Mauritius, where many have struggled with intergenerational trauma, institutional racism, and some have literally died from sadness, depression, what they call a broken heart. Now, the people of Diego Garcia took the British government to courts in Britain, to the high courts. Took the British government to court in Britain, and the High Court of the United Kingdom ruled in favor of the people of Diego Garcia that they have the right to return to their land, their country. But in a cruel twist of fate, this is what often happens. Oh, one moment. Sorry, folks. I was hearing some echoes going on. But yeah, like I was saying, in a cruel twist of fate, the Tony Blair New Labour regime, the British government under Tony Blair, the ruling party with the non-opposition, simply ignored their own court's ruling, and they signed what was called a royal decree in which the people of Diego Garcia would never be allowed to return, putting the people in a bizarre legal limbo where the highest court in Britain said that the British government has a duty to care for these British subjects, citizens of overseas territory, again, like those of the Falklands, Malvinas, Gibraltar, British Virgin Islands, and members of the Commonwealth. And yet, the Labour Party and its successors have told the courts, including UN rulings, saying that what was done to the people of Diego Garcia was an extreme crime against humanity, but the British governments have told all these bodies to kindly sod off, F off. Abayomi, your response to that?
Yeah, that's accurate. They do not want to give up Diego Garcia because of his strategic military position, backed up by the United States, which ostensibly leased the island from the United Kingdom for approximately 100 years. That lease has been renewed, even under last year's government headed by Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer. So we have this betrayal on the part of successive Labour governments in the UK to deny the right of return and the right to self-determination for the people of the Chagos Islands. Now, you mentioned that they were forcibly taken from that territory and dumped in Mauritius and also in the United Kingdom. And this took place between 1968 and 1971. They made sure everyone who had any roots in that territory, they had to leave. And their position, that's why I'm very skeptical about their assertion that that island and other islands in the Indian Ocean were, quote, uninhabited, unquote, prior to the arrival of the European colonialists. They've used this line on numerous occasions. On the mainland of Africa, they have said it as well. I mean, look at South Africa. They claim there was hardly no one there. Namibia, they've said the same thing. The whole entire African continent, they were using that line well into the 20th century, that there never was that many people in Africa. And so where do we come from? Where do the descendants, of Africa in the West, who number in their millions, tens of millions, where did they come from? if they didn't come from Africa. So this is absurd. And they exert their control over territories in which are not close to the United Kingdom, not close to Europe, and really they have no right to occupy those territories. But they're interested in setting up these military bases so they can engage in bombing operations, training operations to maintain imperialist hegemony throughout the world. Now, with the United States Africa Command and the so-called war on terrorism, there are reports that Diego Garcia was utilized as a so-called, quote, black site, unquote, meaning that people were taken there for the purpose of interrogation and torture on the part of U.S. imperialism. Now, we saw this happening beginning after the bombing of the World Trade Center and the Pentagon and the downing of the plane in Pennsylvania approximately 25 years ago. It will be next month. And this has been standard policy on the part of the United States. It is legal, according to their jurisprudence, to engage in kidnapping, denying legal access and legal advice and support for these detainees who are considered, quote, enemy combatants, unquote. So they're saying that Diego Garcia was also utilized for the same purpose. And they do not allow any civilians, whether they originated there or whether they want to travel there, on Diego Garcia. It is considered a military base. Now, several people did go back there in the aftermath of the 2025 decision, which was really a betrayal, a continuation of the betrayal that the Republic of Mauritius had, quote, sovereignty, unquote, over the Chagos Islands and Diego Garcia. But at the same time, the people who came from there, who were kidnapped and taken to the UK and Mauritius, still do not have a right of return. Now, 4 people did return recently to Diego Garcia, but interestingly enough, they were backed by a far-right political party in the UK. It was only 4 of them, so I don't know what angle these people are using, because typically the far-right in the UK have been opposed to any notion of the right of return or self-determination for the Chagosian people. So we have to see how that develops. But I know that Reform UK has been opposed to the decision in 2025. So has the Tory party in the UK, and most definitely the United States. So the probability of that island shutting down the U.S. Military facilities there and allowing thousands of Chagosians and their descendants to return, it will take a much bigger struggle to bring that into reality. But yes, last year there was another decision that was rendered, which also was a betrayal of the Chagosian people. And if you see photographs of people who were either born there or descended from people who were born there, they're African people. There's no question about it. And the whole campaign was led by 2 women who are ostensibly British citizens. But if you see their pictures, if you see the demonstrations that have been held in London outside the courts where these decisions were being made, they're definitely Black women. Bernadette Dugazi and Beatrice Pompey, both are Black women who pioneered the most recent legal actions against Britain, demanding the right of return and also demanding the right of self-determination. But the United States does not want to give up that island, and they continue to say that they have a right to remain there at least another 99 years and possibly an extension of additional decades. So U.S. imperialism and militarism, which is an outgrowth of imperialism, will have to be defeated, in my opinion, before the Chagosian people actually receive any semblance of justice in that territory.
Oh, Britain, they love their 99-year leases, and they love this, and they love their terra nullius bullshit as well. Now, let me ask.
Yes. So they're still imperialists in that regard, and they're still very close allies to the United States. Even in the recent Iran war, even though they haven't entered directly, they're still allowing the Pentagon's fighter bombers and other aircrafts to land on British territory, so-called NATO bases, and then can refuel and then continue to the Persian Gulf and West Asia to carry out bombing operations against the people of the Islamic Republic of Iran and other areas in which they dominate or seek to dominate. So it's still an imperialist issue. And all anti-imperialist forces, whether they're in the UK, Europe, or in North America, should be in solidarity with the Chagosian Islanders in their attempt to win independence, self-determination, and the right of return.
Completely agree with you. Now, let me ask you this question, which is, why can't? And I'm not saying this is an ideal solution, but it'd be far better than what the people of Diego Garcia have been subjected to, where they are displaced people without a land and living in densely urban poverty in Britain, Mauritius, and elsewhere. Why can't why can't this be the solution? The U.S. can keep their climate destroying base, allow the people to return to their lands, let them build their economy and their livelihoods again, and the U.S. can continue to have their base and be the assholes they are, like what they do in Okinawa, Marshall Islands, Puerto Rico. So why can't this Guantanamo Bay-like attitude? Why this Guantanamo Bay-like attitude towards those of Diego Garcia?
Well, apparently they don't want any eyes or ears to hear and see what they're doing in Diego Garcia. I think that is the ultimate response to that question. And the people who have returned, it's only been 4 of them, they received immediately an evacuation order from Britain, yet that was responded to by the British Indian Ocean Territory Judiciary, which is just another branch of the British courts, that they did have a right to stay. Now, how they're going to live there in any type of decent way remains to be seen. But yes, legally and militarily and politically, they do not want, and they've ruled repeatedly, they do not want anyone who is a civilian on that island. It's inhabited right now by U.S. Military forces, construction people, and that's the way they want it. It is a U.S. military base, and it is clearly designed to perpetuate U.S. imperialism in Africa as well as in Asia.
This is the country that members of NATO want an alliance with. Unbelievable.
Yes, I mean, the Britain and the United States, there is some tension, but they do agree on fundamental issues. For example, Miliband had a meeting yesterday with the U.S. Secretary of State, Marco Rubio. They had a meeting. What they discussed, I really don't know in detail, but they did have a meeting. And Miliband, who had, in fact, had said earlier that he believed Trump was a tyrant, he was a fascist, all these negative statements, but now they're sitting down and having meetings on a foreign ministry level. So we'll have to see what happens, because on the one hand, the Labor Party will say that they're against the Iran war, but at the same time, they have not closed their airspace to the United States Air Force, which is carrying out aggressive, hostile actions against Iran, against certain elements in Iraq, and in other areas in West Asia, including Yemen. And they're continuing to support the Zionist occupation forces in occupied Palestine. There's been some criticism of the government of Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister, by the British government. Under Keir Starmer, they said they, quote, recognized, unquote, a Palestinian state, whatever that means. The question is, where is this Palestinian state? And why haven't they set up a no-fly zone over the state of Israel, demanding that their warplanes be grounded. They have not done that. So this talk about recognizing a Palestinian state is just folly, because in reality, the Palestinians are still being slaughtered, whether it's in Gaza, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, throughout the entire region of West Asia. They killed people yesterday in southern Lebanon after some Israeli occupation forces troops were killed by the resistance in southern Lebanon. So no, they do not want any human beings who are civilians living on Diego Garcia, because in all likelihood, it's a black site as well as a base for carrying out horrendous military actions against people throughout the world.
And also, isn't another reason why the British government tends to be very evasive with a common sense solution like the one I came up with, because there's nuclear weapons facilities on Diego Garcia, which the U.S. government neither deny nor give any what's that say? That the U.S. Military doesn't want to be 100% honest with.
No, they neither confirm or deny
exactly.
the presence of nuclear weapons and the production of nuclear weapons or any other type of weapon on Diego Garcia. Just like the Israelis neither confirm nor deny their possession of hundreds of nuclear warheads in occupied Palestine. So it's a very similar situation. But the reality is that the United States is the only country in the world to use an atomic weapon against another nation. It happened in August of 1945, some 81 years ago this month. August 6th, which was yesterday, and August 9th, which will be Sunday, they dropped two atomic bombs on Hiroshima and another one on Nagasaki that killed immediately hundreds of thousands of people. And even today, 8 decades later, people are still living with that horrendous war crime, which was totally unnecessary. There were already negotiations taking place between Imperial Japan and the United States after the collapse of the German Reich in May of 1945. So these people do not want to do anything except continue to occupy that island and to remain dominant in the so-called Indian Ocean.
Before I get to this question about Diego Garcia, I also it's important to put this in the record. But the U.S. also dropped atomic bombs on the Marshall Islands, and the U.S. dropped bombs on the Marshall Islands, and you still have people who are suffering from the effects of that all these years later, which the United States has never ever compensated the Marshall Islands for that. But the Marshall Islands, now, is that also a U.S. overseas territory, a colony like Puerto Rico, Guam, American Samoa, or what is the status of the Marshall Islands?
What the legal status is, I'm not exactly sure, but in effect, it is another U.S. occupied territory, like Guam, like Diego Garcia, like Puerto Rico, and others.
Okay, interesting. And going back to Diego Garcia, now, watching John Pilger's documentary, the late John Pilger, God rest his soul, watching John Pilger's documentary on Diego Garcia called "Stealing a Nation," which I got to rewatch when Pilger's body of work was being archived into the British Public Library in London to celebrate John's work. John Pilger himself showed to an audience some of his documentaries and other documentaries he was particularly fond of, and Stealing a Nation was one of them. One of the peoples he interviewed in the documentary is the now former president of Mauritius, Kassem Youtem, I believe, who served as the president of Mauritius from 1992 to 2002, and he's from the MMM party, the Mauritian Militant Movement, and
Mm-hmm.
and viewers and listeners would have gotten the impression that Mauritius was an innocent actor and does have empathy and sympathy for the plight of Diego Garcia. But doing some deep dives, that actually isn't the case. Now, does Mauritius have any claim to Diego Garcia? Because in international courts, and I think even again the high courts of the UK pretty much said that the UK relinquished their claim on Diego Garcia,
Right.
which again is an illegal U.S. base now. But the claim that the islands basically belong to Mauritius, and one would
Right.
think, that this is a semi-victory for the people of Diego Garcia, but actually they continue to be in legal limbo, purgatory, if you will, because Mauritius is not going to allow the people of the urban slums to go back to Diego Garcia. So, what is happening now, and how is Mauritius playing a cruel role in all of this? Oh,
Yeah, it's very interesting that the Republic of Mauritius appears to be somewhat satisfied with the ruling of the British High Courts. But as far as we're concerned, it's just another legal maneuver by the British government in the United Kingdom and the United States to provide cover for the ongoing imperialist acquisition of the largest territory in the Chagos Islands, which is Diego Garcia. So I don't see them arguing that this somehow represents justice, when in fact it doesn't represent justice.
exactly. Actually, hold on one second, folks. Uh-oh. Hold on one second, folks. We're having some internet connection problems. One moment.